Yeah, that's my friend. I'm in Miami. I don't have a lot of friends out here, okay? She asked me if she could work out with me. I said, okay. You gotta believe what you want. It's the last time you gonna be cursing at me, disrespecting me over nothing. I'm a human being. I'm not gonna lock myself up in a room and have no friends. I don't have a bunch of guy friends. I already told you that. And she just came over to work out. But I'm not gonna be explaining to you. It don't matter if I just got finished with her the other day. I'm single. I could do whatever the I want to, but I didn't. You're straight flipping out on me, and I told you that you had one more time to do this. Flipping out on me because somebody came to work out with me at my house. You're nuts. So be sad, go crazy, do whatever you want to do. Okay, I don't deserve you. I don't deserve being honest with somebody. And then every time they see somebody around, they like, I'm doing something, working out. Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know. You think you silent treating me, and you think I'm gonna be nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence, and ain't nobody threatening you. And I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you could be mad. I could have a spat. We could have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really that's all it is. Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you go in the direction of like moving on like that, or you like just like have me just keep moving. Ain't no threat. I'm just being clear. I can't do this with you every time you get
Welcome to the
upset.
show. Welcome to the show. I just wanted to do a recap of this case really fast. It all started in May of 2025. Sean Diddy Combs trial date was set, and it was breaking news everywhere, and it still is. And now we're waiting for the verdict. So we have all heard of the FOs and the rugs and king nights and all kinds of stuff. We've all heard of that. And if you haven't heard of it, I don't know where you've been. Under a rock. Maybe you've been sitting with the jury, quote unquote, that they haven't heard anything. But we're at the wire. We are down to the wire. And I hadn't got a chance to talk about the prosecutor's last word and the defense. Well, we know that the prosecutors on June 27th had the last word. And they did victim blaming. Comey began her rebuttal by saying the defense just spent a whole lot of energy trying to blame Combs' victims and the U.S. government for the lies, his threats, his inexcusable behavior. She added that this trial was now in Sean Combs' world. No was never an option. They also said it was dirty work. Comey pushed back on the defense's suggestion that ex-chief of staff KK didn't know about Combs' crimes, saying she was aware of every detail of the music mogul's life, including the bribe payment, the rugs, and the escorts. She also argued that Combs needed this inner circle to handle dirty work for him, like obtaining rugs and taking Capricorn Clark against her will. There were also incentives. Ventura And other Combs accusers, Jane, Mia, who testified under pseudonyms, didn't have any financial incentive to testify. Comey argued Ventura already secured millions in settlements from Combs before the trial. They also went back over ex-trafficking. Comey said the defense team has tried to separate violence from X regarding both Ventura and Jane. But if part of the abuse is making your partner participate in a commercial X act, you're guilty of X trafficking. She added that the jury only has to find that one freak off or hotel night was X trafficking to find Combs guilty of the charge. Ex-trafficking does not legally require the perpetrator to overcome a no from the victim, Comey said. It can also involve getting someone to say yes through illegal means like force, fraud, and coercion. Comey also added that he's not a god. She concluded her rebuttal by saying Combs never thought the women he abused would have the courage to speak out about the things he did to them. Combs, she said, is not a god. He is a person. And in this courtroom, he stands equal before the law. Overwhelming evidence proves his guilt. It is time to hold him accountable. Find him guilty. For 20 years, the defendant got away with his crimes. That ends in this courtroom, Comey said. The defendant is not a god. He is a person. And in the courtroom, he stands equal. Overwhelming evidence proves his guilt. And it's time he's held accountable. Comey also went back to the most clearest example of alleged ex-trafficking. Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey said a violent 2024 episode involving Jane, one of the accusers who testified under a pseudonym, is the most clear-cut example of ex-trafficking by Sean Diddy Combs because it's the culmination of a persistent scheme of coercion. Comey said the defense threw out just about any excuse you can think of to explain away the incident. The defense tries to suggest that Jane is somehow to blame for that night, Comey says, referencing a portion of their closing argument in which Combs' lawyers described Jane slamming the music mogul's head against a counter. Quote, "Let me be very clear here. Nothing Jane did that night justifies the defendant's actions." She detailed the way Combs physically assaulted Jane that night, saying he had literally beaten her into submission. Jane may have started the fight, but he finished it with a vengeance, she said, adding that he then made her pay by making her have actual interactions with an escort. She brought up 2 instances of violence: the March 2016 assault of Cassie Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel in California, and the June 2024 altercation between Sean Diddy Combs and Jane, and that is the altercation that I just mentioned. Both incidents were so far over the line, they have tried to desperately spend them, Comey told the jury. When violence is paired with unwanted commercial sex, it turns into trafficking, Comey said. Combs threw Ventura to the ground, to stop her from leaving and kicked her to remind her he has the power, Comey said. Combs took Cassie's phone because he knows she won't leave if he has her phone. Combs then made a calculated decision to stay in the hallway with Ventura once she called security so he can keep control of the situation and prevent security from seeing an escort in the hotel room. Comey also brought up that any financial benefits gained by Combs' accusers only served to, quote, trap them. She says that financial benefits gained by Cassie Ventura and Jane, another accuser who testified under a pseudonym, only serve to give Sean Diddy Combs more control over their lives. The prosecutor said Ventura and Jane both tried to leave Combs multiple times, but would get sucked back in part because of shaming a trauma bond with him. She referenced the defense's suggestion that they engaged in actual encounters orchestrated by Combs in order to reap the benefits that came with the lifestyle. Those supposed benefits, the homes, the money, kept them trapped. The defendant did that on purpose, Comey said. The cost of doing that was just a drop in the bucket, she said. He was more than willing to spend that to trap Cassie and Jane, the prosecutor added. Comey continued on. She continued on about violence, about Cassie as well. In her rebuttal to the defense's depiction of Sean Diddy Combs' relationship with Cassie Ventura and her participation in SCX performances, Comey argued that Ventura was subjected to violence by Combs when she was just 21 years old, and he had control over everything from her career to her home and her car. Comey said that as the violence and fear became routine, Ventura was just worn down. Quote, so when the defendant told Cassie to set up a freak off, what choice did she have? Comey said, referring to the rug-fueled SCX performances Combs orchestrated. Comey said the defense team was trying to separate the violence from the SCX. Being a domestic abuser is not a defense to ex-African, she said. If part of the abuse is making your partner participate in a commercial SEX act, you're guilty of ex-African. Period. 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 Point blank. Like my mother would say, point blank, period. You're guilty of it. And all you need to do is find one. Let's keep going on the recap. She pointed out that Jane only performed hotel nights, quote, out of obligation. By 2023, when Combs paid her rent, that's the only reason she did it. Jealousy is not a defense to ex-African, Prosecutor Comey said, continuing her rebuttal against the defense's closing argument, which was crap. Comey reminded the jury that Jane testified that she arranged for entertainers to participate in hotel nights because she could at least control what men she had SEX with. By 2023, when Combs was paying her rent, Jane was performing hotel nights out of obligation, Comey said. That's coercion. when she was afraid she'd lose her home if she didn't. Comey also stated that Combs could have done all his, quote, dirty work without help from his inner circle. In her rebuttal to the defense's closing argument, which was crap, Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey painted a picture of Sean Diddy Combs delegating everything from mundane to illegal tasks to his associates. This is a guy who can't get himself his own water bottle or plug in his own phone charger, she said, arguing that he certainly needed his inner circle to help him do the things like obtain rugs or take Capricorn Clark. Y'all know what I'm trying to say without saying it, the K word. He delegated and his inner circle handled the dirty work for him. She also rejected the defense's suggestion that anyone in Combs' inner circle didn't know about his crimes, including his security guards. She spoke on the bribery about the deal to obtain the assault video at the hotel. She even revisited testimony about Combs going after Kid Cudi. Prosecutor Maureen Comey said testimony from Cassie Ventura and the rapper Kid Cudi corroborates ex-employee Capricorn Clark's claim that she was K-worded by Combs and forced to go with him to break into the rapper's house. Comey showed the jury a transcript excerpt from Kid Cudi's testimony when he said Clark called him from outside his house to warn him that Combs was there and say that she had been forced to go with him. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilio told the jury that Clark lied when she said Combs had a GUN when he took her to go to the rapper's house. Agnifilio suggested Combs didn't use GUNs and that he wanted a fist fight with Kid Cudi. It makes total sense that when he's going to KILL another man, he's bringing a GUN. When he's beating on a woman half his size, he doesn't need a pow-pow. But when he's going after a man who can match him physically, he brings the pow-pow, Comey argued. Comey talked about with Ventura, Combs' associates played both sides because that helped Combs. In that would bring Cassie back whenever she left. Comey also argued that it was obvious Combs knew he was breaking the law by flying out escorts. Comey stated that Combs flew out escorts, flew them across the country, watched them have sex while he pleased himself, and then handed them cash. She says that the defense suggestion that those things had nothing to do with each other doesn't even pass the laugh test. Common sense alone shows you that when the defendant flew those escorts out, it was not for their conversation. It was for sex. Basically, his money is for sex, the performance, not for the time. And that is prost. Y'all know what I want to say, right? Like PROS, right? Okay, without me saying it. And that is exactly what Comey said. And that allowed some of the men might have been willing to do the acts regardless of money. But when they got cash at the end of the night, they were getting paid for sex. Now, I am truly going to have to say that Comey did her thing. The defense, I don't know what they were doing. I have no clue. I think they probably stood there for like 15, 20 minutes and just spoke. And they would try to blame others for Combs' behavior. Of course, we all know that they didn't have any witnesses, so they didn't call anyone to the stand. I want to say that the defense just spent a whole lot of energy trying to blame Sean Combs' victims and the government for his lies, his threats, and for his inexcusable behavior. Also, Comey pointed out, again, that in Sean Combs' world, the word no is not an option. Also, let me say this. During the jury's break between the end of the defense's closing argument and the upcoming prosecutor's rebuttal, Judge Submaranian said defense attorney Mark Agnifilio improperly suggested to the jury that the government targeted Sean Diddy Combs. Now, if you believe that, let me know in the comments. If you think that the government just targeted Sean Diddy Combs, let me know in the comment. The judge said that he was going to instruct the jury that the government's decisions about the prosecutions are not for the jury to consider. Well, here's a little bit of what the defense was saying. They spoke of the videos, which Agnifilio acknowledged that Combs may have threatened to release the videos of the FOs from time to time, but said there was no way on God's green earth Sean Combs is going to release one of those videos. So they spoke on the videos. They spoke of questioning the difference. Jane, Combs' former girlfriend who testified under a pseudonym, agreed to the hotel nights with him regardless of regret after the fact. Agnifilio argued using a text message from Jane to illustrate his point. He pointed out something about nice gestures. Agnifilio described Combs paying for Jane's house as a gesture of niceness that shouldn't be constructed as a catalyst for ex-trafficking. They talked about state lines. They talked about no co-conspirators. Agnifilio acknowledged that no other co-conspirators were indicted with Combs. He also stated that the government doesn't have any co-conspirators who testified to prove the racketeering conspiracy charge against him. He specifically called out the government for not calling any witnesses in Combs' inner circle, including Christina Korm, Combs' ex-chief of staff, who was brought up several times throughout the trial. Agnifilio described Korm as a helpful employee that everyone loved. In conclusion, Agnifilio concluded by telling the jury the right thing to do is to acquit Combs of all the charges against him. He is not a racketeer. He sits there innocent, Agnifilio said, pointing to Combs. Return him to his family, who have been waiting for him. After all was said and done, Sean Diddy Combs hugged defense attorney Mark Agnifilio, placing his head on the lawyer's shoulder momentarily after he wrapped up his closing argument in the music mogul's defense. Now we are at the part where the jury will receive instructions from the judge in Sean Diddy Combs' federal criminal trial on Monday and begin deliberating. The panel has heard a closing argument from the defense and rebuttal from the prosecution on Friday. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that include racketeering, conspiracy, and ex-trafficking. If convicted on all counts, he could face up to life in prison. Please let me know your comments. What are your thoughts and opinions on this case, on Sean Diddy Combs? I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts and opinions on this case? It could be about the judge, the witnesses, Sean, anyone, family. I just want to know your thoughts and opinions. And please, guys, please do me a favor, a big favor. Please like, share, comment. And the biggest favor I need you to do is subscribe. Thank you all. And I will keep you up to date as we await the verdict.